Hello, my name is John, and this is the story of my Porsche restoration journey. And what a journey it's been. You'll hear about the car's travels from Canada to Texas and then to Munich, afterwards traveling to Manchester in the UK, and finally back to Texas. The story is about a Porsche 964, which was originally going to a German company to be backdated as a wide-bodied hot rod. But then that company stripped the car, sold half the parts, and disappeared. So what was left of the car was shipped to NEINMEISTER in the UK, who sourced all the stolen parts and completed the restoration as a Euro RS recreation. Now, my interest in air-cooled Porsches goes back to the 90s when I owned a 1984 green Targa. And as many of you know, driving an air-cooled Porsche always leaves a smile on your face. But in that car, things like the HVAC just made it an inadequate experience for me. So I sold that car, but I've always missed it. So eventually I decided I wanted another air-cooled model. And remembering those old fleas or the inconveniences of my Targa, I decided I wanted one with less hassle. So after reading stories online for a year or two, I realized that even though the 964 was galvanized, most of them had rust underneath, and sometimes massive amounts of rust. And so I decided to do a full restoration. So then the journey started on December 11th, 2014, when I bought my donor car, a 1990 Grand Prix white Porsche 964 with 265,000 miles on it. Now, when you're looking for a donor car, the most important thing is that it hasn't been, in a big accident. So you're really looking for a straight chassis. Now, I have a very good friend based in Munich, and he convinced me that used Porsche parts there are cheaper and more readily available because, I guess in part, he said that Munich has more Porsches per capita than anywhere else. And who wouldn't want a German expert restoring their car? So in the summer of 2015, I flew to Munich, visited Autoactive, and it's run by two gentlemen, Peter Vazel and Ralph Scatula. At this time, they had gotten some press in the U.S. on one of their orange, it's called a 964 backdate project. And the quality just looked amazing, and really everything about it spoke to me and was what I wanted. I signed the contract, and the Porsche was delivered from Texas into Munich around July 2015. I had a contract for about 90,000 euros, excluding VAT, and that was for full restoration. And until they get it, they don't really know what needs to be replaced, what can be refurbished, and so on. Right around June 16th on 2016, Ralph emails me and says, hey, we got about 65,000 euros left on the contract, please send the next payment. But he stopped sending me photos, and I learned that just about a month later, July 20th, Ralph has disappeared. So I fly back to Germany in August and talk to Peter, who's the partner. He basically says that his partner was acting in an unauthorized manner and refuses to honor the contract. So this is where things start to go really bad. And basically no one wanted to take on the project. And so I was reading on the Pelican parts, and I noticed this guy from NEINMEISTER, which is a company based in Manchester, and his name's Colin. And Colin was always commenting in a way that was really giving and knowledgeable. And I came to realize that he had quite an expertise in engines. I reached out to Colin, and Colin said, yeah, I can take on your project. And so we shipped the car, I should say what's left of it, from Munich to Manchester at this point. In the meantime, I did hire a German attorney. So the German attorney is able to track Ralph down and basically said, hey, the guy's filed bankruptcy and has no money. What do you want to do? And so I said, well, why don't we pursue a police case against him to at least prevent others from falling into this trap? In the end, the German prosecutor said that because I did not have a contract specifying which parts Ralph was allowed to sell and which parts he was not allowed to sell, there was no demonstrated fraud on his part. My real advice is to actually have a contract in place that sets out milestones where the vendor is authorized to sell parts, and to be very clear on which parts they're authorized to sell. That would have helped me greatly. the car is now arriving from Munich into the NEINMEISTER side just outside of Manchester in the UK. And let me just talk about what was missing. On the body, there's no hood, there's no engine lid or spoiler, no bumpers and side skirts, they're all gone. The door frames are gone, the door locks, and there's no roof on the car. Inside, there's no seats, no carpet, no dash top. There's also, I guess, on the engine, there's no crankcase or crankshaft. The intake system is gone, the exhaust system is gone, the alternator, fan, and shroud are gone, fuel injectors and fuel rails gone. In terms of the electronics, the ABS ECU, the DME, the heater control unit, the instruments, etc., all gone. So Colin really has, and team has, quite a task, and as you can see some of the pictures of the condition of the car as it arrives at NEINMEISTER. So the first thing that NEINMEISTER typically does is work on the body. So since we were missing so many parts, we came to the conclusion that we would require a 964 convertible to kind of steal parts from. In addition, Colin had done several RS conversions where he had some parts left over he was able to work me a deal on. So you can see here the photos are coming through. The car gets on the rotisserie and begins the laborious process. Now, I was surprised to learn that this is a big part of the cost. Maybe if you separate the engine, getting the body right, including the stripping and the painting and the aligning and the conversion to RS, is about half of the price. Half of the labor, maybe 600, 700, 800 hours of labor at NEINMEISTER, and that's something that they really focus on. Once the body goes through the rotisserie, you can see some of the photos here. It goes into painting and starts to take shape. I ended up changing to an RS. Why? The Euro RS has always been desired in the US, but they were basically not licensed until a couple of years ago to come into the US for various reasons. The second thing is, if Colin really only works in steel, so the only way I could get a wide body would be for him to procure an original replacement Porsche 964 wide body, which would add about 20,000 pounds to the bill, and by this time, I'm feeling pretty stumped. So I decided to go with a classic Euro RS touring build. Why touring? I just decided, hey, I want my wife to be able to drive this and enjoy it. So when she depresses the clutch, I want it to not require, superhuman effort. I want it to be nice and easy. That's the build that we went down. And again, Colin really has these Euro RSs down to a fine art and science. Now you can see the wiring harness is another place that they start, and it's crazy. I had no idea, and I'm showing a picture here of all the old wires that they removed. That was from the alarm system, the old alarm system or aftermarket systems. Most 964s that you find will have this, and just superfluous wires that are not needed. The team there at NEINMEISTER, you can see, really sorts this through. They have all the original diagrams and just put it in a very uniform manner. That was important to me because I want to be able to take the car to a dealer here and just have them work on it. I mean, even though it sounds attractive to have a $20,000 kind of Singer wiring harness, to me, I just wanted the original, but I wanted it done right. So they did an amazing job here, and I just would never want to attempt this myself. The other thing that I guess when I was thinking about NEINMEISTER and my own build was, I want to make this my own within the bounds of propriety. So for me, music is super important. I listen to Spotify every day. I want to stream my music. And so I just went with an Alpine system using a Hertz amp. And you can see the guys there at 9M did an amazing job installing this amp under the passenger front seat. I use focal speakers in the front and the back, and it sounds amazing. As we move on to the interior, I brought my wife to NEINMEISTER, and we sat down and we decided, first of all, black. But as we looked at the various shades of black, we wanted something, to look fresh and a little bit updated, and in a way copied the guy from Ammo that's on the YouTube, where he did a Bentley Beluga black. It wasn't that we were trying to copy him. It's just that color of black with the water or oil kind of glimmer, gleam. It just looks fresh. The other thing is we wanted a tan interior. Black and tan is something that we like. I know that's not as common outside the US, but that's what we wanted. So what we did is we added a little bit of orange, or maybe a lot of orange, into the leather color. You know, you can make fun of it, it looks like a pumpkin or whatever, but I feel like it brings the car into the 2020s. The other choice that you make is a secondary color inside, and ours is graphite, so you can see the stitching and the little subtle graphite or gray. The leather is super fine. I don't want to give away too many details, but the guy who does the interior work works for a tier 1 car company during the week and is quite skilled. And that was actually one of the long poles in the tent, is just getting time for him to wrap the interior. But it looks fabulous. Now, I mentioned previously that I really wanted my wife to enjoy this, so I had the team there really put leather, almost in every touch point. We had heated seats installed, custom done there, because my wife loves that. Again, I've talked earlier about differentiating your build from others. One of the things that we went with was a 4-channel ABS system that's done, as far as I know, only by NEINMEISTER, where it just gives you the extra security and stopping power. We also upgraded to the 993 brakes. In some of the photos, you'll see them as red. At the end, I decided to change them out to black. So if you happen to catch that subtlety, that's why. I didn't like the red with the orange once I actually saw them together. So we got the 4-channel ABS braking, something that's unique to the car. And you can see the photos, just everything hand done. Now, the other big thing that we wanted to do was around the engine, and NEINMEISTER offered us 3 different engine options. You can just rebuild the 260 horsepower original OEM engine and just have it blueprinted so that all the tolerances are just like they were in the factory, and that is a great choice, and there's nothing absolutely wrong with that. You can also upgrade from a 3.6 liter to a 3.8 liter, pretty much holding everything else constant. And then finally, you can do more of an RS spec engine with low inertia parts all over the place. Also a specialty is the Vario Ram add-on. Now, I mentioned I wanted a touring model, so if I do track this thing, it's not my primary target. The Vario Ram comes from the 993 the later 993 models, and so in order to get that here, you can see that the Vario Ram was they bought a used one and they ground it out and got it looking beautifully, and then did all of the extra add-ons, including the ECU update, to make it work. What that does is it gives you the torque in the 2600 RPM range, just more usability, drivability, and really enjoyability, and that's what I went for. I did splurge a little bit on the engine rebuilding, and at the end I will show the dyno results from that. One thing I want to point out is how people position their donor cars versus the reality. So I did mention that we had a secondary convertible that was a donor car that only had about 40,000 miles on it. Once we disassembled this 40,000 mile engine, we had faults like the number 6 cylinder had a broken head stud, there was a snap distributor drive belt, the right camshaft had a worn lobe, a heavily worn chain guide, and a collapsed chain tensioner, and the original magnesium camshaft covers were heavily corroded. So the good news is that the bottom end, the pump, the intermediate shaft, the crank and cases were in perfect condition with, unmarked bearing. Just a little food for thought. Now you can enjoy the video here. That is the first startup. You can clearly see the Vario Ram sitting on top. So now we're entering final assembly. This is where I was a little bit frustrated in, how long it was taking. NEINMEISTER, I think, had 3 or 4 builds going on at the same time. Another guy that I came to know along the process was having NEINMEISTER do a back date for him. Ironically, he chose the very same exterior color of me, which is that Bentley Beluga Black. He has a red interior and of course a back date. So I think it's really cool to see two cars exactly the same paint coat on the outside, and then how customized you can go, whether you backdate or not, inside. So final assembly, you can see the car coming together. It's getting exciting. And then toward the end here, you can see my car getting loaded into the little container down to the port, which was loaded onto a container ship and delivered to the U.S. You notice the model number. NEINMEISTER has unique model numbers that designate their own, nomenclature. I did not really want to put, Carrera RS or RS on the back because it's not a real RS. It's even better, but I just felt like in the end, this gold looks great on the black, NEINMEISTER model number on the back, and then it's not trying to pretend to be anything that it's not. And again, I feel like this car drives and feels and is better than the original RSs. Finally, I'll point out on the dyno, this is using US 91 premium grade unleaded. We have 305.6 horsepower, so a nice jump and bump from the original OEM specifications in terms of horsepower. Okay, as we finish up here, I am showing you a couple before and after photos, and wow, you can see how crazy, bad it was to start and how amazing it is now. I appreciate you taking the time to go through the journey with me. Hope you've enjoyed it, and reach out if you have any questions. Thanks.